So if you're ready to begin, the presentation is done. Let's dive into some handwritten code. So the first step is to reference jQuery Mobile and its style sheet. So if you visit jQueryMobile.com, you'll be taken to their home page. And if you visit the download page, you have two options. You can either reference the files hosted by Google, or if you'd like a local solution, you can download the zip file below. Now, unless in rare circumstances, I'd highly recommend you take care of the free bandwidth and Google's CDN. It'll be much faster in 99.9% of the cases. So they show here, copy and paste this snippet. What are we referencing here? Well, there's one style sheet, and this is needed for layout and presentation. And then you have two code files here. So the first one is the latest version of jQuery. As of this writing, it's actually 1.4.5, which they haven't updated just yet. And then the third file right here is jQuery Mobile. Now please note jQuery Mobile is still in Alpha 2, so they're working through the bugs. It's a huge leap over Alpha 1, and then when they launch, hopefully in January or February, it's going to be almost bug-free. Okay, so let's take a look. They also give you some examples on a page and layout documentation. We'll come to that later. We're going to get right into it. So I'm going to close this out, and the first thing I want to do here, and I'm going to call this test. Keep it simple. Now I'm going to drag this into my code editor of choice. And generally I use Mac Vim, but in this case we'll use a simple editor like Mac Espresso. So we'll begin by creating a new file, and we'll name this index.html. Now what you'll want to do is copy that snippet that we went over to some kind of text expander program, whether that's Texter for PC created by the Lifehacker guys, or there's Text Expander on the Mac. Another tool that I use for code management is called Snippets. Now this is Mac exclusive, but I guarantee for you PC users you'll find another option as well. So I've saved a little snippet here, and if I search for jQuery Mobile, we can see right here, this is what I've saved. So as you can see, we want to make sure that we place these scripts at the top because we need them for layout. So don't place them at the bottom like you normally would. So again, we're referencing the style sheet. Then we're referencing jQuery. I'm going to update that to 1.4.5. And then finally, we're referencing the latest version of jQuery Mobile, which is Alpha 2. So let's take a look here. When you create your documents, you need to create your wrapper. So while you would normally use something like, I don't know, div ID equals wrapper, or more common is container, right? That would work just fine, but the only change is when working with jQuery Mobile, you have to apply custom attributes and classes. So in this case, to instruct the jQuery framework that this wrapper is going to be the wrapper for your page, you would use a custom HTML5 attribute. In this case, it's data role. So what's that data? Data is specified in the HTML5 spec. And what that means is if you want to use a custom attribute, that's okay. However, it must be preceded with data. So while you could technically get away with something like role equals page, if you want to conform to the HTML5 spec, make sure you precede it with data role. And with that, with any attributes, if you need to tie information to a specific element, just precede data equals foo. Okay? So now, by applying data role equals page, the jQuery framework now knows what our wrapper is. Now, even cooler, you can have multiple pages. So for example, if I were to create two of these, and I gave it a different ID or no ID at all, these would each be treated as their own page. Now jQuery Mobile will only show this one at first, but then if you were to link to the second page, it would show appropriately, even though both of these are in the same document. And we're going to go over that a little bit more in future lessons. So within our container, we have your basic layout. You have a header, you have your main content area, and you have your footer. So you have a couple options here. Since we're using HTML5 doc type, and by the way, everyone should be using this doc type. For the older browsers that don't understand it, they simply will disregard it and they will fall back into standards mode. So there's absolutely no reason why you should not be using this right now. Don't let that 2012 stuff get in the way of making smart choices. And if you don't believe me, check google.com, and even they use this doc type. Now, if you'd like, you can also use the new HTML5 elements such as header, and footer. This is more semantic and it designates our header area and our footer area. And if you like, with HTML5, you can have multiple header areas and multiple footer elements.